Hello, welcome back to my birthday update. It's March 5th, 4:30 p.m. and today I turned 25. Holy shit. I can't believe that I've been doing this for like 5 years. I felt like today was just a rest day because I really went a little hard yesterday night for my birthday. So today's healing 24. It was definitely, I felt like a more pivotal year. I feel so different. Like, I feel like previous years in life, not much happened, but I don't know, this year, like, I felt like so many different eras and stages. Everything before was like a prologue, and then now it's like getting to the real deal of like, this is where like my life kind of really begins. I did like a lot of different things that I did want to do. I remember last year I really wanted to do like dance classes, just like try new things. So I did do one. I did my hip hop class, I did a heels class, I did like some other, like, I don't know if it was like a choreography class, but I don't know if I looked good, but it was just so like cool to go just to give myself that space to really adventure and like be more free. I'm just happy to know that like I tried it out and not having to think about further like, oh, like, should I do it? Like, what are people gonna think about me? Maybe I'm gonna look stupid, but then I'm just like, doesn't matter. Like, when you get there, even if you go alone, that's really something that really helped motivate me and really kind of showed me, like, oh, trying new things isn't as bad as my brain makes it up to be. I visited New York for the first time. It was just going with friends, maybe that helped a lot. It was like a vacation that I saw the East Coast for the first time. There's a lot of people moving, so it feels like you're a part of something. I definitely didn't get that. I was a little bit stressed if I didn't know where I was going, just because I feel like for my personality type, I just like to know, and with especially the atmosphere, I don't want to be in someone's way, and like it feels very like on the go-go, which I think looking back on now is something I feel like I really need though. It's really good for me to just go out, take a break from work, and just see what's out there, because I kind of just forget like being in the same space for so long, how much other life is out there. That's literally what I kept thinking about after, and like even telling people of my reactions of going to New York for the first time. I was like, oh my god, I forgot there's so many different types of life out there outside of like this one place I'm in, and like how many things to do and like to try. Just completely forgot. I was just so focused like on one thing, going to work and things like that, because I was like, oh, like I don't know where my next steps are. No, I wasn't really motivated to like do anything, but all I knew in my mind was like, oh, I want to like move somewhere, but I just don't know where. Trying to figure that part out. Luckily I get to stay at home, but like it's just something that I was really wanted. It's like an itch type thing that after you've been in the same place for so long, we always want change. Following that, I got COVID for the first time. That was not fun. It went fine. I mean, all I did was literally lay in bed, eat soup, and watch videos. I kind of got cabin fever because that's also when I realized I could not stay at home that long, just because I was like, I need to see civilization. I need to like go out. It's just because I had to like stay home, be away from everybody so I won't infect anybody, that I was like, man, I really want to see people now just because I can't. So yeah, I was just nervous on spreading it to my family, but I'm glad that all worked out and I healed and, you know, life continued. Besides dance classes, I was in my hot yoga era, and that was a big thing. I did one class, just it's part of like the class pass deal, and like it's kind of expensive for the package, but then I felt like I fell into like a cult or something. Like I literally went one time and I was like, wow, I feel very like accomplished, and I think it's because like you sweat so damn much in that class that I just felt like did something today that was like, you know, productive and like towards my health. It was fun, like the first, like very challenging. I like going with friends and things like that, but I think I just liked it too because I didn't feel like it would be awkward if I came alone. It is still expensive, but I went like literally 3-4 times a week. It was literally a regular, like all the instructors that I saw, like they knew my name, like they would chat me up too. So I think that was something I was not like very used to. On my normal days, all I do is eat, sleep, go to work, and then drive back home. And that's literally like the only thing I did, which is probably why I get so like sad. And I think lonely too was something I really felt because I was not really trying new things, and like I would always be stuck at home and just I didn't know what else to do outside work. So that really helped me get back into more of my health grind because I really haven't gone to exercise for a long time before that, just because I was like, oh, I can exercise at home for cheap, but then I feel very unmotivated at home. And so I think having an instructor helped a lot because I learned that I cannot like do things on my own, like going to the gym as much because I can't hold myself accountable that well. I think the big thing with going to hot yoga was that it really kept me focused. Like, I didn't think about work, or if I did, I tried not to because, you know, the whole point of like doing yoga and a little bit of meditation just to like focus on within your body, just being still and like feeling all your different parts just, you know, existing. And that was really hard, but once I got through the flow of things, I think it really helped me a lot too, especially because I realized I may have some anger problems or buildup. So I think it was really nice to help me calm down, and especially with driving, like drive other drivers just like freak me out or they make me so mad. So I think yoga really helped me to just calm myself and keep my inner peace. I never really regret going, but it's always hard to just go the first time. I think I did it for like a few months. I think I did for like 3-4 months in the summertime too. So it was like extra hot, like outside and then inside. I love the heat, even though like some people find it uncomfortable. I realized like I don't mind it. Maybe because too in the summertime I just felt more motivated, like that vitamin D really be helping us so much. I just felt happier. I felt more motivated like after work. Like I was like, oh, I want to go do things. And like I would go for walks by myself too after work, go to the park, and I just go on some short walks around the neighborhood. Gave me a space to for my own energy just because I live at home. Like I feel like parents, sister, grandma, so many people talking to me, it's very overstimulating, and I feel like I don't have my own space even though I have my own room. I think just having like a separate zone is something I really craved, so that really helped a lot going to yoga, and like especially when it's near my work, so might as well take advantage of it. A lot more reading this year. I read like 5 books this year, 5 or 4 books I finished. I didn't like some of them, but some of them were very eye-opening to me. I think they really helped me to see a different perspective, take some of the, you know, lessons in the book and like transform it into my life. Just try to get back into reading and exercising. It felt like something that I stopped doing for a little while last year. I felt like I was going through like a lot emotionally. I remember seeing like a video and they're like talking about how trying to, you know, heal your inner child, and I never like really thought of it like that because I always tried to figure out like what was it that is keeping me so anxious and is the root cause behind it. It's like I know I shouldn't be my own therapist. I did one exercise where they were like, oh, like write a letter to your younger self. I think it really helped me because it was like I basically imagined literally writing to like my 17-year-old self. I think that was something, a lot of things were happening and I didn't realize how much they affected me so much that it even translates to certain ways I feel and act now. So that really did like help to heal me a little bit, and I think it just helped to put like the past behind. I focus so much on the past sometimes that I need to like come to that like conclusion and like resolution by myself, like talking to myself. I feel like that's what I did this year, being your own best friend type of thing, where it's like having two voices where, you know, it's like me and then it's like another like dialogue which is also myself, And so it's kind of like talking to myself on like working through some problems, or just like, okay, why do I feel like this? It's kind of to that way ease like my anxiety, and like kind of come up with resolutions for like my past like trauma or like problems that I had back then. So I think that really helped me a lot this year, was really putting myself first. I always thought I was more selfish, but like when I look back and reflect on my actions and like the way I thought, like it wasn't like that. I realized also I'm a people pleaser. Is associated with like with strangers and things like that, like, oh, you don't know these people but you value their opinions so much. But I feel like it's more of the opposite for me, where the people that are closest to me in my life, I value them like a little bit more than like myself and what I think. So I always like thought of them before myself in any situation that would make it like easier for the other person, instead of like, what do I want to do or what do I think about that. Making more of my own choices and decisions, and putting myself first and what I think and I want to do, which is like strange because I thought I was. No, I wasn't doing that, to be honest. I think I was really living through other people and trying to live this life that other people in my life, like in family and stuff like that, would approve of. Never really decided that for myself. I was always like, okay, like I should just do it like this because I don't really have aspirations of my own. I really had to think about what it is that I like and what I can do. If no one is watching and you were not attached to like any sort of role or like title or like image, like who are you? And that's really something that I took in personally with everything now, trying to be my own person and form my own like life. It was like a light bulb moment where I'm like, oh my god, like that's really putting myself first, just considering my own decisions and happiness. And it's not selfish. I think it really gets warped into that because you're not considering family and like time and effort, but at the same time it is your own life. You can't rely on people forever to decide for you and like what they think you should do. Like you could always take it into account and consideration, but you shouldn't have it be the voice of reason only. Listening to my own voice and what is it? Even if you make mistakes, I think that's part of it. That's like life in general. Now I'm like, oh my god, it falls onto me, and like I'm like everything I do, like I decided that. But at the same time it's a little thrilling because then you're like, wow, like I can't believe like I did that, or I can't believe like how much I was holding myself back, which is crazier because I never thought like, I thought I was going full force, but I've been like really half-assing life now that I think about it and like reflect on like years before, as I was like, somebody else like already told me, it's like a cheat sheet, like they told me how to like get to a place that of like success, and then you can relax and things like that. But at the same time it's like you don't have to choose to do that, but I could also choose to do other things and kind of write my own story. I think that's what it is about this year that feels more pivotal, is that it feels like I'm like really writing my own story and where I want to go, and like what is it, the life that I want to lead. Being at home, I thought I couldn't learn as much just because I was like stuck in my own past, because I'm in the same room, I'm in the same neighborhood, like everything is the same. But then I realized like, oh no, it's like the same like environment, but it's up to me on how I want to make of it. Interesting to reflect back on, because I don't even remember like what it was in my mind, what was going on, and I think a lot of it was the self-destruction and like self-doubt and like some depression and just so much negativity that I really had to kind of swim through. It felt like I was really drowning in that, but I never really showed it because, you know, it's just something, it's like an internal battle that I feel like you can't really have somebody else fix. And I always used to think that, which is why I feel like it really reflected that in the way that I viewed like relationships and love, because I was like, oh, I think I really like someone who would like take on my baggage and like really help me through it, and giving control to other people to help like kind of save me and change my life. But it really changed when I started thinking about what it is that I want to do, and am I just going to keep waiting for somebody to try and fix my problems and just like sit here and just not do anything. I think that really changed also my perspective on love, because I don't want to rely on someone like that so much, especially emotionally. That's like a lot of like not only baggage but like power to give to someone to like control. And I know it's not like a power dynamic thing, but I think it really can like impact the way that you view it yourself, and like depending on the people around you and like depending on the people that you meet, like how they influence you. I think it really made me think of like, oh, what kind of like a partner do I want? I really want someone just to like grow with me instead of like trying to fix like my emotional problems. I can't like articulate like all the features and like every personality trait that I would want and I would think is a big like a match for me, because I literally have no idea like if that would be true. So I think this year like being more open-minded like helped me a lot to ease my anxiety and just like go for things more. And then this year I also got into a car accident, so I think that really kind of put me into another funk. The way I think about it, it's kind of like that mentality, like a victim mentality, where I'm like, oh, if I didn't go down the street, if I didn't like try like go down this lane, like if I like try to change the past, like I wouldn't be in this situation. Emotional part about it that was really hard to get through. I think at the time too, I thought that, oh, things shouldn't be going too well because then it's like something bad will happen. And having that type of mentality was exhausting, and I think this added on to that, and it felt like it proved its point, like, oh, this is the bad thing, like, because like too many like good things like were happening, and so I got carried away. Like I should always be like on edge, like I shouldn't be too like careless, you know, I shouldn't be too like happy in the moment, which is like kind of toxic thinking for myself, because I should be happy when I want to be. Like I shouldn't always have to watch my back, but you know, that happened and it really pushed me to be like, I want to be a walkable city. I think I understand that, you know, you have to continue on in life, but you're also allowed to go and be in your emotional state when you're in that moment. And I think I haven't really learned to be like that until then, just because I really tried to keep pushing through, because I'm like, oh, like basically the way I work is like, oh my god, this is gonna sound so bad, but I remember I had this mentality heavily in high school too, just because I did it in like I did a lot of sports. So the more I would want to like cry about things or feel emotional, like the harder I would run, just because I don't want to think about it. I don't like, it was like a coping mechanism type of thing, and like an avoidance, just because I was like, I don't have time to deal with it. Nothing can get done if I just like cry or just like, you know, be in my emotional state. But I think that's really needed. Like I'm not a robot, and I think allowing myself to feel these feelings are just so, like validating myself, and I'm basically just unlearning my old habits and trying to form new healthier versions. It's just something I never really considered, or I never thought about, just because, you know, with like you just keep going on, but then if you never stop to think about it, it's kind of like things just stay the same. But I think that one, even though it was a shitty experience to go through, it really made me think about like how it's okay, and like validating myself, because at the end of the day you literally really have yourself. Especially relearning how to drive again was a bit of a struggle. I made me think like, oh, like, you know, some people, they'll still go to work and things like that, like you can't just stop, like some people have bills to pay, and I think having that mindset is also very toxic. I think comparing my problems with other people's is like not the way to go about it, because then it's just not, it like I'll never feel like I get to fully validate myself and like feel my emotions that I'm feeling at the time, because I'm constantly being like reminded then like, oh, like, you know, there's worse out there, but it's not like, yes, there are worse problems and there are things that could be so much worse in the situation, but I think it's just to validate yourself and just like get out the emotions, and then you can like try to move on from then, because if you never did, like it'll always come back. And I think that's a thing too, that feeling of like resentment and anger and so many other emotions come back just because like things weren't handled at that time. Learning how to drive again was to kind of prove to myself too, of like, okay, look at how mentally strong you are. I would have liked it if I had a few more days to like, you know, take it all in and just like, you know, heal a little bit better emotionally, but you know, other people in my life say otherwise. So, but I do agree, I think once I got over that, I think it really helped build up my confidence and make me more ambitious, because I'm like, okay, like if I can get through this, like you can literally get through like other things too. Like consistently having like problems or issues come up, I always thought like, oh man, like why is my life like this? Like why am I like always put in this type of problems while other people like don't live the same, or they, you know, it looks like life is going so much better for them, and why is it me? So I think pulling myself out of that and really thinking about myself instead of looking to other people on how they live is like, the more energy I spend like comparing my life and seeing other people, or like feeling like jealous, really takes away more effort and energy that I could be spending on myself to like either better myself or like, you know, make myself happy. Putting myself in that mindset really helped me to grow, boost my own self-esteem and confidence in a different way. It really helps to like, you know, not see everyone as like quote unquote like competition, where you're like, who's trying to lead the best life, you know? It's just your own life. I feel like especially too in like Asian cultures, it's nonstop comparison, but if I just stop like listening to it, I literally have to like physically stop and like remove myself. I think that really helps me a lot, because the second that you feed into this and the comparisons and like the talking and just, you know, trying to always please people, that you're really losing yourself and your own like, I feel like your own voice. Besides all that stuff and like, you know, the sadness, I think other good things did come out of 24. Like I got to go see DPR, even if it wasn't like the best seats, but I think that trip really got me thinking about life I live now. It's like some people like this is what they are like 30, 40. It's just work, eat, sleep, go home. Like that's literally like all my routine. And then it's just like, okay, like helping out sometimes, you know, with family, or like, you know, cleaning up, and that's like what I would do in my free time if it wasn't like, you know, work or sleep. And it would just be like cleaning, it'd be like a little cooking, like family, how can I help like take care for the family too, because I'm like getting to live here and I'm like, you know, it's like sacrificing that side of me, but you know, free housing. Going to Seattle like multiple times, but I think this one, especially for DPR, it like made me feel like what it was like to be like really live like as a 24-year-old, just like carefree, have fun. Like I just forgot. Like, that was literally be sometimes the highlight of my weekend, is like going to get groceries, and I'm just like, wow, I feel like I've aged like 10 years from other people that I've met and like, you know, in my age group. Really like going out, partying. I think it's just one of those things where I can't do it every weekend, but I think it's just okay to like let loose. Like I got to meet up with like, you know, all my college friends, and I think that really was good for me, just to like, I don't know, see people around my age again and just more interactions. Like it really made me think of how much I'm an extrovert, because I get more energy from that. Not saying I don't love my alone time, I do. Like I feel like weekdays are like my alone time like 5 days of the week. The weekend I like to enjoy with other people, socializing, like doing anything outside of home because I spend 5 days of the week doing that. Having more adventures, just like something thrilling in my life, really helped a lot. I learned a lot more too because like I went on my second date, and so I really learned like, oh, I always used to think like that more introverted like type of guys or what I like. I'm normally the person who always asks the questions, so it's like really different when like people ask me questions, because I'm just like, I mean, people ask me questions, but I think it's just like consistently like that was very like new, and it felt like I liked it more just because it felt like it was more engaging. It was just, you know, more fun. That was interesting too, going through like another talking phase. And just, I also get overly stimulated from TikTok because there's too many damn opinions where I'm like, okay, what, like, they're like, oh, if he does this, then he's like into you. If he doesn't do this, like, you know, this is what you should be going for. And I think it's just something from that I was like, I need to like back off so I can like, you know, just live in the moment and like breathe, because it felt like when, you know, it's the thing, it's like when you have too many opinions, you just get more confused. And I think that really drove me like a little crazy, like crazier than like if I just like, you know, went with the flow or like, but there are some important notes too. I thought I like having fun and that type of aspect of just like talking is fine, but I think I just like, I don't know if it's this stage of life or just because I like don't have the patience. I would like to see what it'd be like to like actually be in a relationship, and so I think that really like changed something in me where I'm like on like more dates, but I think I do consider my own like feelings ahead more, just because even though I say like, oh, like it's whatever, like I feel like I do tend to care more than what I actually say. I feel like that I should just like, you know, it's okay to say that, you know. I feel like there's like this mentality where you're like, oh, people always say like you shouldn't care, or like, you know, trying to put like more of like that indifferent type attitude, which I do not have. And that's what I realize, is that if I care, I just care. Like you can't really change that. Yeah, I feel like I always am like, oh, it's fine, like it's whatever, I'll just like go with the flow. But you don't always have to go with the flow. Like you can just create your own flow, and then like if people don't match that flow, then just next, you know, type of thing. And I really should try for next time, or like whenever the next time is. I can literally talk to anyone, and I feel like it's like a skill where sometimes I question, where I'm like, oh, like I'll like, how often do I like meet people where I click like this? And it's like, girl, let's be like, be fucking for real. Like you will meet other people like that. I think it's just the hopeless romantic in me where I'm like, and also I feel like I'm just lazy, where I'm like, oh, I hope this is the one, just so like, you know, dating out here is a bit hard. Mindset too also means maybe I'm not ready to date if I am always like putting that, if I'm on edge so much like that, or I'm just like, oh, like why, like am I talking to these people just for fun? I mean, that's fine, but it's also like, are you actually fine with it, or do you care? Like what do you want to get out of this, you know? And I think I don't ask myself that enough, but then after that I think I really did. It also made me realize like, wow, I think I'm in a stage of my life where I'm also ready to move out, just because I really enjoyed that freedom so much, not only just because of vacation, but like coming back I feel like is always like harder of like being back in that routine. And I think it's just because I'm going back into a routine where I'm not growing. I think just something exciting is missing, and so that really got me thinking about like, oh, I want to see what it's really like to live like, you know, not only like independently, but just like live a lifestyle that I, you know, a single 20 something year old like would have to be like fun but also a little stressful, just like, you know, just something different. In my youth, it's like I feel like that's like prime time to do like, you know, whatever it is that I want to try. And then after, I mean, I still can do it, but I just feel like this is like the time where a lot of people are learning too, so it's not like anything like a lot of like pressure on me. My life is together, because like no one's is, and I don't know why I keep trying to do that. Thinking logically, is a bit too much sometimes for me, where I'm like, sometimes I just need to bite the bullet and just do it, and then I can assess and like, you know, think later. All the reading and things like that, it really cleared my mind and really got me going in a different direction than what I'm always used to. This year I felt like this was the most I've like networked and like talked to this many people in the industry that I want to be in. And I feel like it all started from when I literally connected with somebody from work and was like, oh, even though she thought I was my manager and I cleared it up, I literally was like, oh, like on a multiverse, like if from each decision you make, you know, it's a different path that and a different life that you could lead. So I literally was like, okay, I thought about that, and I also like took the time like to when listening to podcasts, especially one networking and things like that. It's basically like dropping your ego. I think that's something I really learned to do, is drop my ego. I don't know why, like I hold on to that. I think it's a pride thing, but it's just like asking for help too. She was saying like people want to help, like, you know, there's always people like when you message them they're not going to reply, and there's some people that do, and I think the people like people want to help, you just have to reach out and see what your chances are basically. And so that really motivated me to like just message her, and then like talking to like her, like her work and things like that. I wasn't really expecting much out of it, just because I was like, oh, like she like works with like our company and stuff like that. So I was like, oh, like just, you know, get to know people too, because I don't really talk to a lot of people besides like coworkers and friends, family. So I'm like, oh, might as well like throw myself out there. That went well too, just like talking to her about like where I'm at and just like seeing how her work life is. So she connected me with like other people, and then it was just like a storm like after, just like, oh, connecting with other people. And I've never like had coffee chats before and like networked, because I've never known how to, or like I was never taught how to. Like it really led me to thinking about my career, and I think it just made me more enthusiastic, just because talking to these people really, and how they all started, and just, I don't know, I feel like I haven't talked to anyone who really gets it, because I remember in college, like, you know, I feel like a lot of people in STEM go into similar paths. So if you're going to like do like medical school, or like you're going to research, like you have a group of people who are similar to you in that path, and so you have like more bond. But I felt like because I was doing like beauty, like there was nobody who was also doing that. I didn't know how to navigate through it, just because like no one taught me. They're just like, oh, like if you want to do that, you can try like reaching out to companies and stuff like that. But it just felt like I didn't know exactly how to start, how to form like these messages or like connect with people. So I think it really helped me too, especially because I genuinely just wanted to get to know people. Because I think what really stopped me a lot of times, like, oh, I don't want people to think I'm using them. And it's not even like using like just to get like to a job or something, but I think like own in on that is just like literally a whole just conversation. Like if it's not about work, it's about like their life, and just like talking with one girl like for 2 hours about like her job and like how it goes for her, and like the beauty industry, and like how like it goes at her workplace. And I thought it was just so relatable too, just because like I feel like when I have problems and stuff at work, like yes, I can tell like my friends and family, but I feel like it's a bit harder to, because I have to like explain what like this means, and like, oh, like I'm frustrated because like this and this. But like when I tell like them, they're just like, oh yeah, they get it. Or it's just like they also face the same type of like problems. I just felt that a sense of like community was really nice, just because I feel like I had, I don't know, like I've never been a super big community type person. Like I have friends and stuff, and that's really all I thought I needed. But like with work, it just felt nice to like be motivated by these other people that are like good in their careers, and like hearing them talk about like ingredients or like beauty products the same way like that I also view it. So it makes me try harder to like, you know, do more research on my own, or just like, it really feels like a lot of these people in common, like if they didn't go to like school for it, they just infatuated so much with like beauty and like the technical side of it that they just learned on their own, and that's basically how they were introduced or how they got started. Like they were very hands-on and like very like, I feel like action type people where they really went after what they wanted, and they like did it in their own free time just because they were so passionate about it. And so I was like, wow, that it's like really inspiring. After talking to them, I feel like it reinvigorated like a fire in me I like forgot about, like a passion for it, just because I felt like I've been like very go with the flow. Like I don't have any sort of like, I don't know, desire or like determination for anything. I was like, oh, I just want to like move somewhere. I like this industry, but I don't know. Like, I think it just has to do with like work is the thing. And like, if I'm not being stimulated enough, or I'm just like, there's not a lot of opportunities, I think it's just tiring. Especially because I always have to reach out and like to really throw myself literally at people. But like for networking, it's fine just because it's like part of the whole thing. You know, some people will answer, some people won't, which like is totally understandable. But I feel like at work, it's like if I don't have like a type of role model, I think it's just really hard because I don't have like a mentor type figure. So I think it really made it a little bit harder because I can't really, like, I can talk to my coworkers and stuff, and like we talk about like, you know, like the surface level with trends and other things or projects, but it just doesn't feel like there's no like real action behind it. It just feels like I don't have a lot of resources to continue learning more. I wish I did it in college, but in college I literally did not know how to talk to people the same way I do now. You realize later in life, you're like, oh, if only I did this sooner. But at the same time, like I was going through a whole different journey when I was going through college, and just even when I was 20, I feel like it was focusing on the smaller things versus the overall, because I literally had no idea where my life was headed. Or I had an idea, but it actually wasn't my idea. It was just like what everyone else is doing, and it looked like appealing just because I was already there. What really helps too is like having good solid conversation. Like that makes me feel so like accomplished and like more seen, I guess. It's like the girls who get it, but probably keep doing that. Like it's always awkward, I feel like, it's a cold message, but I feel like it's one of those things where you literally have to throw your ego away and like not care about what others think. You have to care a little bit where it's not obsessive, but I think it's one of those things where you won't know until you try. This year is all about like really proving something, but to myself. I feel like before it was more about me proving myself to like get other people's acceptance and like love and things like that, but this year it just feels like it's more about me and what is it that makes me happy, what do I want to love about myself type of thing. And also I feel like self-love is so like different from, because I used to think self-love like back then last year, but I felt like it was a very like surface level type thing. Like it, like when I looked at it, it was more about like my looks, like, oh, do I think like I'm ugly or pretty type thing. But I feel like it runs so much deeper than that. It's like, oh, like say like I like love myself more. Oh, it's not like, oh, I love like my physical attributes, like, you know, my like abs or like butt or something like that. It's more about like, okay, like I put myself first because I love myself. So I'm going to do this to better myself because I know that's what I need. Treating myself like my best friend, basically. I think I've just really let go of this idea of like trying to always read people. I feel like I took a lot of pride of that, where I'm like, oh, you don't even need to tell me, like I know how you feel, and so I'll just act on it. But it really doesn't help anybody, just because it makes me become more of a people pleaser. When I try to read people all the time, I feel like it just adds more stress to me. And I think it's just because I've always grown up trying to read people, read the room. Like maybe it's also my Pisces side, where I can like emotionally tell like how things go. I try to put out the easiest like solution possible, like a middle ground, without like considering the other person on what they literally say. Like I just create a whole scenario in my head, which is so annoying because literally none of that happens. Or like if I'm like, oh, they'll say this, it's like, will they actually say that, or are you just thinking that? And so you're scared to even like face that situation if that actually comes up, or maybe it wouldn't happen. I think it's just creating scenarios in my head that like didn't happen but I think will happen. Habit I'm unlearning basically, where I'm not I'm like, if they don't agree or they don't like something, then I think, as adults, like we can communicate that, or we can try to. It's like I can't always read you, and I really don't want to overthink things too. I can't really do that anymore. It literally drove me insane just thinking of all these things, and then it would drive me into a spiral of like overthinking. Something I didn't realize, but I love being extra. I feel like I always lie to myself and I say like, oh, like if nobody wants to like either like go out or dress up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's fine with like I also like maybe I should like tone it, like maybe this is too much. Like sometimes when I like put outfits together, no, maybe I should also learn how to stand. Maybe I just don't know how, but I think it's just part of my personality where I think if I had to choose, like I just like going out and enjoying life because I'm always like inside for 5 days of the week, because like after work all I do is just stay inside because that's all I want to do. I just want to rest. And especially being extra is, I feel like especially around here, but I always think like, is it really the environment, or is it because like personally for me I take into account too much of what I think other people will think of me, because I'm like, oh, this is too much like for just like a hangout or like going somewhere, like fit more in, like I don't want to stand out, but it made me realize like maybe I do want to stand out, maybe I do want to like try and like put myself like experiment a little more. Like if that's something that I like to do, like I should just do it, even if it's on my own. I shouldn't always depend on the environment around me to like make me like fuel me to try, just because I'm like I already am like that. I feel like the creativity like really has died down just because I'm like, oh, like there's nowhere special to go. And it's like I feel like I really am like an initiator. Like I need to put myself in that mindset where even if no one does it, like I'll do it just because I want to, and like I have fun doing it, and it's not like any more work, or like it doesn't put me through, it doesn't make me stressed out to try to like be a little bit more extra. I think it just makes me a little happier because like that's literally like the only thing that like can motivate me and keep me like going. Oh, I did rock climbing. That was good. I hate heights so much. So when I went and tried it, it was literally, I was like so freaking scared. Like I literally could not look down. Like I could only go maybe like a foot or 2 feet up. But I think when I got to like the top after the like fourth try, I literally like, it was like that sense of accomplishment where I'm like, I'm a bad bitch. Like I can do that. It's literally like all I could thought about after is like how much of a mental game it is sometimes. Like I thought I was afraid of heights, but then I got to the top. I'm still like afraid, but it's like I still did it. Like I can do it. So I feel like it gave me like a reassurance. I think that's really what I got to out of this year, was like how much I need to reassure myself, because it is literally just a mental battle, really. Like no one's telling me like, all these things. Like that I can't do it or it's like impossible. The most important thing is to reassure myself, just because, you know, I think that's like the most important, because I'm the person going through it, and if I don't reassure myself, then it's like I cannot like do anything, because I already pre-programmed that in my brain, like I can't do it and I'm not going to. So it really got me out of that mindset. This year has really been about me proving something to myself, just because I now value my opinion the most and what I think about myself and what it is that I want to like show to myself and the potential that I know I have. It's like literally liberating myself, freeing myself out of like these ideas, and like I don't know, I feel like I really kept myself like down, and I've really just beat myself over just, you know, staying in the same place. Yeah, last year was really going through a very like tough time. Degrading myself, I just did not have any like idea. I feel like I always looked to the people around me, even still a little bit, but I feel like it's a lot less than before, where I look for like validation, a second opinion. Like I just needed to know like I was doing the right thing or making the right decision, or like I just needed to consult every single time. And I think sometimes I don't always need to. Like if I want to just do it, just go and try. The most mental progression I felt like experienced. It's crazy because I literally don't feel the same. I remember exactly how it was and how like drained and tired. It's just like how sad I felt and lonely and like all these emotions, like it was just so overwhelming. It felt like I was drowning in my emotions. I think this year I just know, it's like getting to know myself like all over again. It's like having a first date with myself. Okay, what is it that I like to do? What do I like to do by myself? What are my hobbies? It's literally like asking myself that. It's not finding an answer, but just kind of like recalling, like going back to like my childhood and just going back to things that I used to always love to do that I don't have a chance to do as much anymore, and trying to revisit that. It's definitely like healing my inner child type thing, like using activities that I know I love and I still do, and just trying it again. Just trying it again as an adult, and especially it, I feel like healed me a lot. Like reading, I always used to do a lot when I was a kid, and this year I think reading really got me through a lot of things and just got me to sort myself out a little bit. It just felt like I just needed it. And especially exercising too, like those are the top two things like I always loved to do, but then I was through like a big like slump, or like I don't know, like depression type, where I literally didn't want to do anything, like just laying in bed, like that's all I ever thought about, just like how I just go home. Like I didn't think about anything else besides just being in bed and like not doing anything, just like, oh, there's no point in like trying or anything. Something in me was like, okay, like I know like if I continue like this, it's just gonna lead down another rabbit hole, especially with like the car accident stuff. It felt like it just launched me back into that mindset of just like, oh, like see, this is like I can't like go and try new things, like bad stuff happens like all the time, and sometimes it's just timing and it's just life. And really thinking about like, okay, like what gets me out of bed, just literally anything, like what gets me out of my room. Like it can be like a little like cafe, it can be literally like reading, anything to just not have me lie down so long and like drown in my own emotions and thoughts. That was a lot. Makes me think about like how certain things really do matter to me more than I thought. Even when I went to Vegas this year, like to visit family and stuff, I just needed a vacation mainly, like from work. Like I was really and still really burnt out. So when we went as a family, I'm like, oh my god, the family trips are always so like stressful. So I'm like, oh, having to deal with that, but might as well, like I haven't seen family in like years, so I'm like, okay, like we should go. I always felt very content like with my immediate family, and it's not even a lot of us. It's just like my mom, dad, and sister, and then my grandma, and just like, and my friends, and it just felt like having that was enough for me. I think going to Vegas, like having a lively, noisy type of atmosphere is annoying, but then it does make me like really appreciate like what family is, and like it did make me wonder like, oh, if I stayed like in like California, would I have that type of environment all the time again, versus here it's like always very like quiet and like kept to myself, which is good because like, you know, we can have our own time and space. It just felt like so different having like a big family. I like forgot about, yeah, just so much like happiness. I don't know if it's just because it's also a reunion, you know, so it's like been a long time since everyone's seen each other or like gathered in one place like that. Damn. Maybe because it was also a vacation, like that, I felt so like happy. Like I did not want to come back. Like the second I got on the plane, I like teared up too because I was just like, wow, like that sense of family. I've just have not felt like that strong like energy in such a long time, and I never realized how like important it was to me. I think that also healed me a little. Just having that like hyper energy, the noisiness, the loud, like just having that space. It just, even if we didn't go out like a lot, it just felt really comforting. Like I listened to podcasts so much this year too, and especially like I just remember a certain interview. In life, you're basically writing your own story, you know, as you go, but then the second you let somebody else decide it, you've let them take like, you know, the pen and paper and write the story for you, and they're just rewriting their story, but now it's onto you. I feel like that really resonated with me just because I always felt like that, because I've always just felt very like complacent because I didn't have my own desires, or like I always like had other people's ideas of success that I thought were also mine, but they're not. Create my own story. I think I've really learned how to find meaning in my life, which is a very big statement to say. I feel like this young of age, but it just felt like it. Like it just, like the transition from 24 to 25, it just felt so different. Like I just felt so lifeless, like just a moving soul. Like nothing to really like look forward to, nothing to like keep me really going a lot of the times. So I feel like this year, like I gotta give myself a pat on the back because I really got myself to get out of that and really understand what it is that I really need. Like I always think about like, oh, I think I need this, but like what do I actually need? Like what do I need to hear? What do I need to like do, you know? When I did like the talking to my younger self exercise, like it just felt like I was basically looking directly at what my 17-year-old self looked like at the time and speaking directly to her and saying things that what I actually wanted to hear the most. That to myself really closed that chapter. It's been all about healing, just emotionally, mentally. Just, I feel like healing so many like mental wounds that I never thought I could fix. I just need somebody, like, you know, you just need a temporary fix. But I just felt like, I hope at least, like, I really did set these things aside. And I'm like, okay, like, that was me in the past, but what about me now? They're two completely different people. But yes, I don't know if that's maturing, but, and I don't have all of life's answers, but it just felt like that's what I just needed in that moment and right now to keep moving on. I think that was the most satisfying thing because I feel like it does play a part too, especially when I sleep. Like if like I sometimes I can't sleep that much because I'm just thinking too much. And like never realized how much also anxiety I had, like focusing on each day. I'm taking it day by day has been basically it, but it does make it a little hard for future planning. Just because I'm like, I can't think too far, or else like if I do that, I get sucked in on like thinking so much about the future that I forget about like what is it right now. With like my parents, I always was like, oh, they don't like believe in me, they don't believe I can make it, like all this stuff. Like they never like ask about like these things, or we never talk about it, so they don't really probably understand or like all that type of stuff. I feel like I really went through like my late angsty teen type era where, you know, it's like, oh my god, nobody gets me, I'm like so alone on this, or like I don't feel like I'm supported like in that emotional way. I think this year what really stuck out to me the most was like because I was yearning so much for validation, especially from my parents, that I just gave up on that because I'm like, oh, like it literally did drive me insane, and just, or like it drove me to like a corner against myself, because not only do I have the pressure of them, I have the pressure of myself to maintain, you know, all the things that, you know, to maintain this life that is like, you know, you're getting by and like checking all the boxes. But I think it was like talking about moving out type thing. Like I've always like, I think I would never like talk about that just because it's like something I don't want to hear other people's opinions on how like I can't do it, or like, you know, it's so much harder, like, you know, just too many like too much negativity that I just did not want to be surrounded by every time this topic would be brought up, or that's what I would think every time this topic would be brought up. But the more like as I've gotten older now and like being more open and like talking more with like my parents now as I've grown up, it just made me realize like how much of like, well, there were some things in the past that were questionable, but it made me realize how much like they're people too, like nobody's perfect, but also how much like I've set this image of them from my brain in the past that like when I was like 16 or something, that they're still the same way, and like they'll still like tell me these things to like hold me back, or like I can't do it without them. I was talking about moving out because I've like mentioned like, oh, like, you know, at some point like I'm gonna like move out and like other things like that, you know, just like throwing it out there, seeing how, I just want to see how they'd react, even though I had a good sense of it and what I felt like they would say. Yeah, I was just really shocked, I guess, because they definitely don't want me to feel pressure to when I'm not like financially capable, or like if I like, you know, I don't want to feel, they don't want to make it feel rushed like to get out or like anything. But I think what really stuck out to me the most was just when my it's not even emotional, but it's just really weird to say out loud. I think it's just when my mom mentioned like here what really pushed me more to pursue more of what I want to do is like having that conversation of just like moving out in general and like all this stuff. And my mom's like, oh, like it's not like they're gonna stop worrying, you know, but I think it was the thing where why can't I get it out? It'll be fine, because she knows that I'm strong enough that she knows that I can do it. And I don't know why, like, you know, it's just like, just that statement, it just like completely like changed like my vision on how they saw me, like, and how it, because I was already on this journey of just like, you know, loving myself more, like putting myself first, but it really solidified like how much things do change in our relationship as we get older. Thought like I don't know why, like I just truly believe they thought like I'm incapable of doing anything without them. And so I think that really took a toll on me, and it really made me believe it. And that's what I always thought, like, growing up, was like, I'm incapable of being independent and my own person. But when she said that, it was literally like she never, I feel like my parents are not the type to always be like, you got this, like, I know you can do it. So I think it was something that I just always wanted to hear, but I never thought that's how she felt and saw me, was that she said that she knows, like, when I want something, she knows I she knows, like, that how strong, and like once I find something that I want, like, I go all in, and she knows that I'll get it. It was emotional. Like, it's not like I was crying, but it was just like, it just gave me a new sense of like, wow, like, I know I can do it, but it just pushed that more onto me of like, now I know, like, she knows that. Now I know that she also believes that I can also do it. Because I know what my good qualities are, but I never realized she also. I never really realized how much she also believed in me this whole time, but never voiced it. It's one of those things growing up Asian where I think I just never realized how much I really wanted to hear that. Oh my god, this stumped me more than last year. That really cleared my head, and it made me more passionate on what it is that I'm going after. And just, I think it just pushed me more because she also knows I can do it, but yeah, it just ignited something new. Definitely this year has been about healing my inner child, and that's literally, I think what I needed. Because I always thought being in the same space where I grew up, I needed to move somewhere else in order for my problems to disappear, to fix them. It's only because I'm trapped in that same space, which is partially true, but I think the real problems really lie deeper, and it's not like if I move somewhere else, they would get away, you know? It's only, you know, in that moment, but I'd still probably think about it. I'd still, like, would be mentally, like, so absorbed. I really let myself go, and I really, like, freed myself. It was 101 essays to change the way you think that really stood out to me. And I always write, like, quotes in books when I find it to be super useful and, like, something to look back on that I need. Loving yourself is letting yourself be loved too. And I think that's what I really needed the most, was allowing myself to be loved. And so that was the journey of figuring out how to love myself beyond just taking care of my outer appearance. It, like, was definitely so much more than that. It was deeper memories, trauma, deeper, just so many things that I never fixed. Or not fixed, I never came to terms with. I think now, after all that, like, I just feel so much calmer, a little lighter. I think now I have more aspirations has been better, because now I'm gonna be moving to New York, and it's just, I never thought I would be ever saying that, which is crazy because I always pictured my life, like, back in California. Like, I never once looked at the East Coast, and it's just, I think something about it is just the timing, the opportunity. I think that's what it really got to me, is like, if there's an opportunity, just, like, take it, like, any opportunity. Like, I thought too much about, like, the pros and cons of things when I could just, like, decide, like, okay, like, why not just try? So that basically led me to now on the way to moving to New York with no job on standby, but at least I'll be living with like Yuna and G. Like I remember talking to somebody or like a couple people, and they would ask too, like, oh, like, have you visited like New York and things, because everybody talks about New York, you know, like the glamorized part of it, and like, oh, wanting to go there. And I'm like, no, I can never see myself. Like I distinctly remember, I'm like, oh, I don't have a desire to go there. I don't need to go there. And it's crazy how life really works, because now I'm going there and I'm gonna live there. So I'm like, whoa. Literally, like, never say never. I'm nervous. I'm excited. I'm anxious. Like, I haven't felt like all these things of something new in such a long time. But I'm excited. I'm excited too to see what kind of a life I'm gonna just have, and the people, and that's why it really feels like reintroducing myself, you know? Like a 2.0 moment. For 25, what do I hope for? I really have no idea. Because I literally have no idea what to expect. But I just hope that I can get a new job, I can grow. I just have no idea where my life is headed, but I'm like excited because like now it's in motion of what the possibilities could be. But yeah, thanks for tuning in on my 25th birthday recap, and I guess I'll see you next year, or maybe there'll be more things for me to talk about. So, bye!